Lace them up, let's start the show. We're digging in with Trip. 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 We're digging in with Trip today, yeah.
Well, welcome to another edition of Digging In with Trip, and this is going to be a great one. Unfortunately, as we air this episode, a guy that has been shovel in hand in the ultra most impressive and through fashion, Vincent Trocheck, has been injured for the last couple of games for the Hurricanes. We just hope that Vincent finds his way back to the lineup soon. He has been tremendous. Boy, you look at our Dig-In Player of the Month in the NHL with that Pittsburgh crest, the great Sidney Crosby, the Pittsburgh native that Vincent Trocheck is. Has he been stellar for Carolina or what? In spades to the ends of the earth. So it's going to be fun to dig in momentarily with the great competitor that Vincent is and how he came to be. And we're able to do so thanks to the great people at the New Country Auto Group with reach, exposure, elite automotive dealerships from Ferrari to Mercedes to Maserati to Lexus, BMW, up and down the eastern seaboard in New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Maryland, right on down to Florida. They just cut the tape and opened the doors to the finest Ferrari dealership in the United States, bar none, not even close. NewCountry.com. That's the New Country Auto Group. They are our presenting sponsor. They have been with us right from the get-go, and they check every box when it comes to what you're looking for when buying a car. Also, to the wonderful people, they're true hockey people at Hoseheads. Yeah, HoseheadsHockey.com. They have some merchandise collections that are really cool. Really cool. You want to check them out. They're on Instagram. Take out the O and the E in hockey at Hoseheads Hockey. And like I said, HoseheadsHockey.com. They have an original 6 collection of merchandise that's unique, really spectacular. Also, with the fact that we're going to dig in with Vincent Trocheck, they have some Pittsburgh roots and also have a really, I think, unique Pittsburgh Penguin collection that you want to take a look at. HoseheadsHockey.com. So thank you to them for jumping on board. As always, before we grab our shovels and talk to Vincent, remind you to check out our ever-expanding merchandise line. Check out Vincent Trocheck's merchandise line, which is spectacular. He's shovel in hand with his merch, just like he is in everything else he does. And please rate and review our show on all audio platforms and, of course, on YouTube. You can see our merch at digintrip.com. But for right now, it's all about finding out what makes Vincent tick. It's been truly a privilege and a pleasure to be his analyst. And now I'm very, very excited to dig in with the Pittsburgh native. And right now, for all the right reasons, such an important and popular Hurricane. Let's dig in now with Vincent Trocheck. I am truly excited for this episode because even though he grew up in Pittsburgh, I consider him to be, with his youth hockey roots and junior roots, Vincent Trocheck to be a pure Michigander. Vincent, boy, has your shovel ever been 24/7? So I ask you as I commence every show, my brother, how do you define digging in?
It's a good question, Trip. I think I define digging in as coming to work every day with your shovel, ready to work, ready to do it the right way. I guess that's pretty much it.
Do you think, because we're gonna go back to the beginning in Pittsburgh in a minute, but do you think, because everybody I ever trust in the game of hockey, when I tried to get familiar with you before we became friends, they always said supreme competitor. Do you think being a competitor is something you're born with, upbringing, something you can develop, combination of of all of these things?
I think it's a combination of all those things. I think definitely a little bit of it came from genetics. I think my parents are both extremely competitive, from organized sports to playing a card game at home. And I think you just develop it over time. Whenever you're playing sports growing up, playing baseball and hockey for myself was just, you become extremely competitive.
Tell me about your parents.
Parents both grew up in Pittsburgh. My dad played baseball growing up, big into music, played the alto sax, went to the University of Miami in Florida, partial scholarship for baseball, partial scholarship for music. Mom also grew up in Pittsburgh, big Italian family. She played basketball growing up, but she's my mom and my best friend, really.
Vincent, by the way, this is a fleece from one of my 2 golf clubs in Michigan, and it's about 80% Italian, and 95% of my friends in life are Italian. You know, there really are only 2 kinds of people: Italians and those that want to be Italian. I mean, it's a fact. I mean, I oftentimes try to say that my name's not Trip Tracy, it's Trapezi Tracy. I mean, what position did you play in baseball?
I played catcher.
You played catcher. What about your dad?
He was a first baseman.
And what was the first sport in the Pittsburgh area that you played, I guess, with the most passion? And then when did you eventually say, hey, listen, hockey's where I want to go?
I think I played baseball first. I guess it was T-ball then, but I think that was just my dad. Obviously, growing up playing baseball, he didn't play hockey. It was just the first thing that he did was put a baseball bat in my hand. So that was the first thing I did. But hockey was followed shortly thereafter.
Your mom, you said, is your best friend. What's your mom's first name?
Rita.
And what's the best thing? I mean, I'm sure Rita is masterful in all sorts of Italian dishes. What's her finest?
Stuffed peppers are my favorite she makes.
Oh, my mouth is watering just thinking about Rita's peppers. I mean, my gosh, 3 impact top shelf NHLers from the Pittsburgh area, and John Gibson, JT Miller, and of course yourself. Why do you think youth hockey and excellence has grown so much in the western portion of the state of Pennsylvania?
I think, well, it starts back in when I was born. I was born in 93. So right around like 92, 91, 92, 93 is when Pittsburgh hockey, when the Penguins really started to blossom as a dynasty and win their 2 cups in the early 90s. And Mario and Jagr were there. And I think that's kind of whenever Pittsburgh became a little bit of a hockey town and everybody wanted to start getting their kids into hockey. And sure enough, 18 years later, there was 4 kids from Pittsburgh in the 2011 draft taken. So, and I think since then, obviously Mario's done a great job of turning youth hockey in Pittsburgh into something pretty spectacular, built a new arena, connected to the UPMC hospital or a doctor's office. And it's really blossomed quite well.
Well, you're making me think about years ago when one of the members of those back-to-back Stanley Cup winning teams, Tom Barrasso, was a Hurricane. Vincent, he wore his pants so high. Ray Whitney, who is just a great competitor with great hands like Vincent Trocheck, underrated sense of humor. You the same, outstanding sense of humor. So Ray Whitney used to say he wore his pants so high, he actually had to reach over his shoulder to grab his wallet. Tommy B. I enjoyed him as a Hurricane and a staple on those Pittsburgh teams. You know, you mentioned Jaromir Jagr. So you ended up playing with him and having success with him in Florida. What was that like? What was the first time that you laid eyes on Jaromir Jagr, who you played with and won a division with?
Yeah, it was very surreal whenever we first started playing together. Obviously, growing up, he lived like a half a mile from where I grew up. And we used to I mean, we knew where he lived. We'd ride rollerblades by his house, hoping to see him outside or catch him every once in a while. And he was obviously such an icon in Pittsburgh, somebody that I looked up to in the hockey world my whole life. And then to be able to go to Florida and him get traded there and then end up on the same team and even on the same line at certain times, it was pretty unreal. He had quite a few stories, and he was an extremely intelligent hockey player.
Yeah, as this career went on, I really enjoyed the hot stoves with Jaromir. Did you tell him that you used to do long strides on the rollerblades in front of his house?
Oh, yeah. He would make jokes whenever I'd be going back to Pittsburgh for the summer. He'd make jokes that I needed to go cut his lawn. Still has his house in Pittsburgh, by the way.
Oh, interesting. The only thing that he's dropped since those days is the mullet, but at times he still has that.
Yep.
Were you always a forward and specifically a centerman?
Yep, whole life.
Whole life. So at what point do you make the decision to relocate to the Detroit area, and you played for Little Caesars?
I was around 12, I think, was the year that it started to get a little bit more serious about hockey, and had a few people from Detroit call my parents and ask if we'd be willing to kind of relocate and go play for them. And at the time, youth hockey in Pittsburgh wasn't what it is now, and not really knowing much about professional hockey, my dad thought the best thing for me was to go somewhere where hockey was extremely big and I'd get looked at a lot more. And that's kind of when we took off and went to play for Little Caesars in Detroit.
But did your mom and dad stay in Pitt? Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, 2 younger sisters, Desi and Nina.
2 younger sisters. Okay. And boy, I had a sister, the support that your sisters have that allow you to chase your dream. Did everybody stay put in Pittsburgh, and did you live with a family in Detroit?
So for the first year, everybody stayed in Pittsburgh, but me and my dad would just drive back and forth from Pittsburgh to Detroit 3-4 times a week for practices and games on the weekend. And the second year, it was more, we moved up, and we were lucky enough that Glenn Murray, the Murray family, Mike Ilitch's son-in-law, he took us in really, and he let us stay at their place in Auburn Hills. And I'd be at their place majority of the time. My dad would go back and forth for work from Pittsburgh. And that year it was just me and him. And then I think it was not till I was 15 that my whole family moved up to Birmingham, Michigan. So mom and sisters both came up, and we all lived there. And then they were only there for a year, and I got drafted to Saginaw, went to the OHL, and then everybody went back to Pittsburgh. Well,
a former dig-in guest, and as you well know, a dear friend of mine, Hall of Fame broadcaster Mickey Redmond, he came over at one point when you were in the driveway shooting pucks, playing for Caesars with Glenn Murray, and he immediately knew this guy was willing to pay the price to dig in. What do you remember? I mean, Mickey, 2-time 50-goal scorer. Vincent, he could shoot the puck. What do you remember about those driveway sessions?
Yeah, I remember it was me, him, and Glenn's son, Tyler, on their garage. They had a net in front of the garage, and we'd be out there shirtless, ripping pucks for a few hours every once in a while. He was a great guy, awesome, salt of the earth, and just enjoyed the game of hockey. Still does, obviously.
He feels the exact same way about you. Mick loves the high heat. You've been scoring in all locations. I mean, did he ever tell you to go low, or did he always want it right under the bar?
No, I don't think there was ever a conversation about shooting the puck low.
And I'm thinking about you and your dad on the car rides back and forth to Pittsburgh, the musical background. Did you talk a lot? Did you listen to tunes? What were those rides like?
This is back in the day whenever there was still CDs. And my dad, I think, owned probably 3 CDs, and he had, or 4. It was Phil Collins' Greatest Hits, Dixie Dregs' Greatest Hits, which is a jazz band, and then he had Journey and Whitesnake. So I could recite every single one of the songs on all 4 of those CDs at this point in my life because we listened to it so many times. But there was a lot of music, a little talking, a little fighting, but all in all, it was a really, really great special time.
That's priceless. Journey. I'm a big Journey fan. I know that that one of the, you mentioned Phil Collins, you love Billy Joel and Michael Jackson, if you could see him perform. Billy Joel at Joe Louis Arena was the first concert I ever went to with my dad. So cool. I miss my dad every day. Why do you like Billy Joel?
I think it's just the history. And I mean, even to this day, we would go whenever I was still in Florida. He would play a show every New Year's Eve at the BB&T Center in Florida, and we would go every year. And even to this day, it's still like mesmerizing watching him perform. He's so unbelievably talented and such a genius when it comes to music. And watching him play the piano, I told you I grew up playing the piano and watched my dad play piano, and just kind of the connection between the music there. Playing piano was something that drew me in.
Is it Piano Man, or is there one song, if you had to pick just one that he tickles the ivory like none other?
Yeah, I think Piano Man's got to be number one on that list.
And then, okay, so if we could get in a time machine, Vincent, and go see Michael Jackson play any song live, what would it be?
I think Thriller, just so we could see the dance moves too. Well, although you'd see him pretty much with anything, but the history behind that dance and how even in today, it's kind of the kids today even know it. It's pretty special.
Yeah, I told you I went to a show, the Victory Tour, and I had parachute pants. I had the red zipper jacket. I had one glove on. Oh yeah, I did. All right, more on the musical front. Phil Collins, you mentioned. I mean, I'm a big fan of Genesis too. If you could see one Phil Collins tune, what would it be? What a drummer!
For some reason, Studio is always like the first one that comes to mind. I don't know if it was just something that was always played on my dad's CD, but that's like the first Phil Collins song that comes to mind.
I mean, a staple of Digging In is being a throwback here in 2021. All of my reports, and they're good reports, your dog agrees,
Yep.
is that you have control of the music in the dressing room. Do the boys, to these young guys, I mean, do they have the willingness to listen to some of the all-time greats that we've just mentioned?
Yeah, they do. We mix it up a little bit. A lot of the time before the game, it's just more up-tempo. Nowadays, it's like the EDM, dance music, that kind of stuff. But occasionally, Marty asked for the Rolling Stones the other day, so we mixed in a little bit of Rolling Stones. We try to please everybody, but it's not easy.
Oh my gosh, it can't be. And we're talking about Martinook right now. I mean, Nate does he even know who the Rolling Stones are?
I doubt it. No.
All right, so you're starting to flourish with Little Caesars. What a great AAA program it long has been in Detroit. I believe John Gibson went U.S. development. You end up going to the OHL. Was major junior? Was it a clear-cut choice, Vincent? Did you think about college? How did that all shake out?
Yeah, I thought about college. I actually had no idea what the OHL was up until probably 3 months before the OHL draft. And I definitely wanted to go to college. I wanted to go to the U.S. program. That was kind of everybody in the U.S., that was their dream route, was U.S. program, college, NHL. And did the whole 40 camp with the U.S. development team. Had some teams from the OHL started to show some interest and reach out. And just to kind of make sure that I was looking at it from every angle, went and visited a few teams in the O, and went and visited a game in Saginaw. They were playing against Guelph in the playoffs. I think it was the second round. They had a packed stadium, whatever it was, 5,000-6,000 people. They went to double overtime, won in double overtime. And for some reason, I was just captivated by the whole scene. And I told my dad after I left that I really wanted to play there. And the rest is kind of history. Put the rest on the back burner and went that route.
Saginaw had you at hello.
Yeah.
You're making me think about it, but it was junior B. I got cut for just about 30 stitches in my forehead with my dad in Saginaw, and I had a big date the next day, and he made me get long story. Anyway, memories with my dad, God rest his soul. That Guelph team, I'm trying to think. Brock McGinn must not have been there yet. Who was on? Anybody on that Guelph team, whether it be a McGinn or Robbie? No, they weren't there yet, were they?
Whenever I played.
Well, who was on when you went to go see that game, and with all the people in the building, and you said, "I'm going." You told your dad, "I'm playing for Saginaw."
I can't remember anybody on that Guelph team. Ginner was there. Ginner's a year younger than me. He was there whenever I was playing against them. Same with Fabry and Bertuzzi, all those guys. They had a pretty good team whenever I was there, but I'm not sure about before I got there.
Who were your favorite players or player growing up? Was it the Pittsburgh guys that you've already mentioned? Anybody else in the league at any position?
Peter Forsberg was my favorite player growing up. He was the reason I wore number 21. I would watch his highlights before games in youth hockey, and I really wanted to be Peter Forsberg.
Makes sense with the fire you play with. I mean, you're not just near the top of the leaderboard and production in the NHL right now. You couple it with your physicality, all around completeness. Boy, Peter Forsberg, he was a thrill to watch. Were you ever homesick, whether it be, going and living, when you're playing for Caesars or now with Saginaw, or was it something that you got comfortable? You're a family first guy. Was it ever tough being away from your family?
Yeah, for sure. It was just something though, that was the whole reason I was there was for hockey. And from such a young age, I mean, I can't even remember a time where I didn't think that I was going to play in the NHL or where I didn't think that that's what I wanted to do. It was just, since I was really, really young, that's been my dream. And from the time I moved to Detroit, that was really when I really got serious, and I was determined to make it no matter what. And, that's all I really thought about. So it wasn't really, I didn't get too homesick. Obviously my family was always around. So, for them, I know how difficult it was for them to always have to go back and forth between Pittsburgh and Detroit, but they made it work, and everything worked out. So looking back, it can't really be upset about any of it.
If you could pluck one wrinkle, one attribute to Peter Forsberg's game, what would it be, and make it part of your own?
His physicality was second to none. Even when he had the puck, his reverse hitting and the ability to be strong on the puck was incredible.
We just saw one of those from another Forsberg, Philippe Forsberg on Andrei Svechnikov. That was Forsberg-esque. So you're playing for Saginaw, Vincent. At one point, going into the 2011 draft, what a pick by the Florida Panthers. At what point did you start thinking about, wow, I have a chance to get drafted in the National Hockey League?
I'd say when I was 14 is when I started thinking about it. At that age, there wasn't a whole lot that I thought I couldn't do. I was pretty confident in my ability, and getting to the OHL, I had a little bit of swagger, and looking back, you could definitely call it cockiness. And as much as I wish I wasn't cocky at that age, I think a lot of it is the reason that I was able to play as well as I did, is having that much confidence in myself. And when that season came around, 2011, before the draft, it was something that obviously I was working towards. And we had a couple guys on that team, Brandon Saad being one of them, that was up there at the top of the draft rankings. And both of us went to that top prospects game in the CHL. And the whole year was kind of built around that draft.
Hang on, let me interject here. My brother, I love the confidence. I absolutely love it. And I wish I had more of it. That's what landed me in the booth so quickly. So if you were to a young aspiring player who their favorite player in the NHL is Vincent Trocheck, self-belief, saying, you know what, I'm going to make the NHL. What tools would you really emphasize to have that self-belief and not allow doubt to creep in?
Well, I mean, it's tough. It's a mental game, but the confidence it's so important, especially for a young kid that's trying to make it. you go through a lot of adversity. In the hockey world, it's not easy to make it to the NHL. So you go through a lot of adversity, and staying mentally tough is probably the biggest hump that you have to get over. So staying strong, believing in yourself, and still believing, even if you get cut from a team or sent down from my first year, having to play in the minors for a while, getting called up, getting sent back down, the adversity you have to go through just to kind of stay with it and make sure that you're believing in yourself and knowing that you have the ability to play in the NHL. That's the number one thing, the mental grind, knowing that you can do it. As soon as you start creeping into your head that you can't or you're not good enough, it's going to creep into your play.
Who do you lean on if it ever creeps in, just to eliminate it, tell it to hit the road? Is it something that you do yourself? Do you lean on your wife? Do you lean on your parents? How do you maintain and keep that mental toughness at a high level?
I'd like to say that I lean on my wife and my parents, but no matter how crappy I am, they're always going to tell me that I'm great. So it's tough to believe anything that they're saying. It's more or less myself just kind of getting back into the lab and working twice as hard just to kind of build that confidence up.
Excellent answer. Okay, I got to ask you about a guy. He's a mutual friend. He's in Pittsburgh now. Boy, I heard all about you because I used to skate with him when I was playing junior before I went to college because he was playing briefly for the Hartford Whalers. Mike Vellucci. You say, yo, Trip, this Vincent Trocheck. And I'm like, well, I'll tell you, it's a cool name. Tell me about that. So tell me about Mike Vellucci, who was there in Plymouth. You spent most of your time in Saginaw in the OHL, but then the Plymouth Whalers.
Yeah, so my last year in the OHL, at the trade deadline, Vellucci traded for me. He was the head coach in Plymouth. He traded for me. So I played my last half a year in Plymouth with Vellucci. We had an absolute wagon of a hockey team. It was Tom Wilson, Ryan Hartman, Stefan Nason. Ned was there. It was our goalie. Ricard Raquel, Mitchell Hurd, who was here for a little bit. We had a very, very good hockey team, and Vellucci was a blast to play for. He's part of the reason that I'm here today. I really believe that. He was in everybody in this organization's ear for the last few years to try to trade for me, and it finally ended up happening. But just an unbelievable guy. Loves the game of hockey, loves the game of golf.
I actually played with his brother, Mark, in juniors. His brother was approaching 7 feet. Took him 9 years to get off a slap shot. But when he did, he got a lot on it. I'm looking last night and at the 2013 World Junior Championship. I mean, something that will always be a colossal accomplishment to win gold. The statement for USA Hockey, but to do it on Russian soil. What do you remember most about it? I just looked at all your games, Vince, and once again, you rose to the challenge and won gold in Russia on the road.
Yeah, that trip was one of my biggest accomplishments, I think, in hockey. It was such a blast too. We had a really good team, but we weren't the favorites going into it. I think that Team Canada was loaded, and they actually beat us in the round robin too. And then we played them in the semifinals, I think, and beat them 4-2. But we did it in Ufa, Russia, which Ufa is like, there's nothing there. So it was literally rink hotel. There was no outside activities. So we were just cooped up in the hotel for 3 weeks. But we had a really good time, and we had a really good hockey team that believed that we could do it. And sure enough, we did beat Sweden in the finals.
Ufa sounds like COVID to me.
It's close enough to Siberia too.
Yeah,
it was frigid.
I just looked at all those games, and yeah, boy, what a decisive win over the Canadians. Because I mean, they had a good roster in the semifinals, and you score the big empty netter to ice it for gold in the finals against the Swedes. Tell me about your first NHL call-up, your first NHL game with the Panthers. Who delivered the news, and what are your biggest memories of it?
Yeah, I was so my roommate I was playing in San Antonio. That's was the minor league system for Florida at the time. My roommate Michael Hauser is a goalie. He plays in Cincinnati. and his brother Nick, who was my best man. They were both sitting in the living room, and I got a call from Dale Talon, and he was excited. And you could tell in his voice he was happy to call and give me the news that I've been called up. And I had a game the next day. We played against Buffalo in Florida. And then my second game was against Boston, and Boston was, as they always are, insane to play against. So that was kind of my welcome to the NHL.
Before we get to your first goal, Dale Talon, I know he was your general manager that actually delivered the news. You were in Las Vegas on a road trip that you had been traded to the Carolina Hurricanes. Very special relationship you had and have with Dale. Can you perhaps speak about that?
Yeah, he's just an awesome human being and very loyal. He drafted me obviously in 2011, and I was one of few players that had been in the organization for as long as I had with him. So we really developed a strong relationship over the years. And he was, I mean, he didn't want to trade me at the time. He was reluctant to, and it was just kind of something that things weren't working out, and it was best for both sides to do so. And we talked about it. And in the end, I was very happy to come to Carolina and be with a team that is very good and has a chance to win every year and has great management, great coaching. So he helped put me in a position to succeed.
Always has been in Chicago, Florida, an outstanding assessor of talent at an early age, in my opinion, Dale Talon. Your first goal as a Florida Panther, first tally in the NHL. Where did it happen? Who was it against? Give me the details.
Well, it was in Florida. I'll start off by telling you that it was against Marty Brodeur and the New Jersey Devils. The backside of that story is that Marty Brodeur was on the bench, and it was actually an empty net goal.
Well, hey, listen.
I could leave that part out most of the time.
Nah, Vincent, don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
I know. Yeah, so empty net goal for my first against, and actually Yogs was on New Jersey at the time, and he was chasing me down at the end of the game.
It's still pretty neat. And then who was your first NHL hat trick against?
Edmonton. I only have one.
You only got one? Was it in Florida or on the road?
In Edmonton.
When you're tipping pucks, because I think your hand-eye, you were a catcher in baseball, but obviously that meant you hit at the plate too. I don't know if you're an excellent golfer. If, again, you were teaching any young aspiring hockey player about when you tip up, when you tip down, do you settle your hands at all? Because your redirections this year have been a thing of beauty. What would be your 101 on being a good deflection guy, even strength and the power play for a hockey player?
Really, it's just getting your stick on the puck. I'm not always trying to tip up or down. A lot of times, if I'm just trying to get to the front of the net because that's where the puck's going to end up. That's where you score your goals are in front of the net. So I'm just trying to get there as fast as I can, park my butt in front, and when I see a shot coming, I'm just trying to get a hold of it. We're really not trying to tip it up or down. There's occasions like high tips, like if I'm in the slot and I'm getting a high tip or a shot pass, redirect, say from Spetch on the power play, then trying to redirect it higher from off the ice or off to the side of the net. If I have one of those plays again, it's just kind of chopping at the puck, really.
Would you, Vincent, if fans were allowed beyond the 25%, 15%, what the capacity right now, 15%, the Caniacs would be going bonkers in appreciation for you. Not just, hey, listen, your numbers speak for themselves, but it's you always bring your work. And I've always felt, as long as I've been here, it's a unique fan base because as long as you work, they're going to support you, Caniacs, through thick and thin. You're healthy, you're comfortable in the area. Was there any one moment that you and your wife, your kids, that you said, wow, we're now comfortable in Raleigh, North Carolina in every way?
I don't know if there was one specific moment, but we stayed here after the season was suspended and after the bubble. Throughout this whole COVID thing, we've been in Raleigh we've been here for a year now. We haven't left, and we've just gotten really acclimated with the area. Gotten really close with guys in the team, close with the guys in the staff, guys like Billy B. He trained me this off season. I just feel like I got comfortable here in this last year.
I want to ask you a question about Bill Berniston, because you were one of the guys that was here from the get-go. And I can tell you, Vincent, back when the Canes won the Stanley Cup, 2005, that was by far at that point in time the biggest attendance prior to training camp of guys being here, before training camp actually began. Now, this high-velocity training that I've talked to Billy Berniston about, I see your explosiveness. Slavin was here the whole time during the offseason. I see his explosiveness. Jordan Stahl's explosiveness. You guys were the staples. What is this high-velocity training? And there's competition on a variety of different fronts and real front. I mean, take me in that weight room, because I can see the hard work paying off before my very eyes.
Yeah, as much credit as Billy B deserves for what he did this summer and how good he is at what he does. It was very intense training the entire summer. We started fairly early. We started about 2 weeks after the season ended, and back in the gym at that new facility that we got. And but the biggest thing this summer for me that I think helped me most was the competition between Jordo, Slavo, and myself. I think every day it was a competition who could run faster, who could jump higher, who could lift more. We were pushing each other this summer, and I think that was the best part.
Okay. I'm so proud of those guys like I am you. But come on. Jordo and Slaves, they don't have any one-lining ability. I mean, you would win that by 10 country miles if you gave them a jab. I mean, or am I missing something? Because I feel like
no, you are. Slavo would never come back with anything. He's too nice to chirp back. But Jordo's got some one-liners.
Underrated, the Gronk.
Yeah.
You've been around the league, that you can appreciate the chemistry of a winning team, of a team that is truly a cohesive group. What do you like most about this team so far this year?
I think our confidence as a team is what separates us. I think the big part of teams that go a long way and teams that win championships compared to teams that I've been on that have losing records or don't make the playoffs and struggle to win games even with talent is it's the confidence. I feel our locker room, like, it doesn't matter if we're up 4 goals or if we're down 3 goals. It's no different. We have the confidence. For some reason, we believe we're going to win that game, and we truly believe it. And I think that's a really, really big part of why we are as good as we are.
And you have a head coach that believes in you. I see so many similarities. I don't know. You know this. I mean, Roddy had to earn his spot on this wall over here. I walked his mom down the aisle at his wedding. Getting to know him getting to know you. What makes him unique as a head coach in comparison to some of the other guys you've had? Because you've had some good ones.
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly praising Roddy, but it's incredible what he does. And this is my 8th coach. This is my 8th season, and he's my 8th coach. I've had quite a few, but Roddy he's second to none. I mean, he's been incredible since I got here. From day one, him making it easy for me to kind of fit in and make me comfortable with the system and with the guys, to on a nightly basis, showing how passionate he is about the game and how much he cares about his players, to putting a solid product on the ice it's really, really awesome. And he's a guy that you really want to win for. And it's just been a blast to play for him.
Strong compliment coming from you. I have to say this very quickly, because you were talking about wanting to see Michael Jackson perform Thriller and dance. You should have seen him move Roddy at his reception. I mean, he wasn't altogether bad. I mean, I didn't know he had that in him.
I find that hard to believe. That's one thing I can't give him. I couldn't picture that.
Yeah. I mean, he was out there on the dance floor, and I mean, he proved that horses sweat, people perspired. I mean, he was getting after it. He was digging in. Years ago, I was between the benches, Vincent, and I remember Roddy, right? I was right by the forward door, and Rod got off. You never would have even known it, but I think he had just torn his MCL and his ACL. He was done. Got off the ice and just told our head trainer at the time, Pete Friesen, I'm done. And he was done. I watched both of your significant lower body injuries, including the one in Ottawa. And my admiration for you is through the roof about coming all the way back and being an elite player like you are right now. What were the critical moments, private, fork in the road moments where it was just you and you knew you could go one, you could feel sorry for yourself, you could, let that doubt creep in, that you were at the fork in the road, you dug in?
There was countless moments after that first injury. I just remember being on the ice, and I know it was only like a minute or so, but in the minute that I was there, being stretchered off, I was just hoping that it wasn't bad enough that I wouldn't be able to play hockey again. And that was the scariest part, was the thought that I might not be able to play hockey again was creeping through my mind. Once we found out what it was and that it was fixable and that I'd be able to play again, from there on out, it was just kind of, okay, well, let's get back as quick as I can. And let's get back to work, really. And I was out for, I think, around 2.5 months, which probably should have sat out a little bit longer, but the competitor inside me was tired of watching, and I really wanted to get back, but wasn't as fast as I was prior to the injury whenever I first came back. And mentally that took a toll on me. I wasn't able to play the game that I want to play off the rush and do things the way I was used to doing them. And over the last year and a half, it was just about getting back to that, and countless amount of times not being able to do it and just kind of having to push through that.
That is shovel in hand. That's what it's all about. I want to get to a couple of things here. I'm a social media novice. I mean, that's just as honest as I can be. I'm an old schooler. I should have been, with Doc Holliday and Tombstone, hanging out in the saloons. I watch what you do on you're a little bit Twitter, but Instagram. You got a new merch line out. Everything just seems, now again, I'm a novice, but seems really cool. Can you tell me about it and tell people how they can, get involved? Because I think you're on the cutting edge.
Yeah, I got approached right whenever the season got suspended last year about finding out a way to kind of keep the fans involved throughout the pause and throughout fans not being allowed in the building. And then that's when I started to kind of get more involved in social media. And we started that merchandise line. It's vincenttrocheck.com, and it's basically just I designed a logo and made some fun shirts and sweatshirts that people can go on and buy. And we incorporated the whale logo into the VT logo and stuff like that. So just having some fun with the fans.
I think it's outstanding. And by the way, I'm wearing this for you, baby. That's the Pucky Trucker. That one is on its way to VT.
Baby.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That'll be worn on the course.
Oh, I love it. Okay, we see, and we're thinking about him, the great Tiger Woods. He has to, be shovel in hand and come back once again from the scary accident in California recently. If you could meet one other athlete, you're an outstanding golfer, whether it be a golfer, hockey player, musician, anybody that for you epitomizes digging in, that would be number one on the bucket list for Vincent Trocheck, who would it be?
Tiger Woods. My favorite athlete. He's
You
my
never
favorite
met him?
athlete, hockey included. Never met him. Just an incredible competitor. I mean, obviously his skill set speaks for itself, but his competitive nature is just incredible. He doesn't care who he's going against. Whenever, I'm sure if he plays his son, he's trying to beat his son's ass. It's incredible.
I'm sure that, well, hopefully you'll tee it up with him at some point in time. I just have a feeling that's going to happen. If you could play any golf course on planet Earth with Tiger Woods, I'm sure you'd play anywhere with Tiger, but if you could play any course with Tiger Woods, what would that 18-hole track be?
I think it has to be Augusta National. That's the dream right there.
And what would be, if you could, you'd play 18, maybe bonus holes. But
maybe more, yeah.
Yeah. What's your favorite hole at Augusta National?
I think 13.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure he could show me a few things about it. 13.
I mean, my gosh, it can be a routine. I mean, just looking at that green, the par 3, right? That green must look just minuscule. And then the wind.
And then where you can land it is even smaller.
Yeah. And I remember what happened to Jordan Spieth there. I mean, it just killed him and annihilated him. And then, I don't know about, I'm not David Hasselhoff Baywatch in the beach. I mean, the bunker. I mean, I'm liable to do anything. I'm guessing you have the touch in the sand.
Occasionally.
My buddies and I when we play golf, we jam the tunes. Being the musician that you are, you do?
Oh, yeah. We get the country tunes going whenever we're on the golf course.
Oh, well, you do. As we're taping this, you're about to, play Nashville, home of country music. Who would be your your trifecta of great country artists?
Right now, I'm really big into Morgan Wallen, who's kind of a newer onto the scene. Eric Church, big into Eric Church. Garth Brooks, tough to leave him out.
And Garth Brooks is a big-time hockey fan, too. I would have to say, not to be a softie, but The Dance is one of the great songs I've ever heard. That's my favorite. Garth, I'm a softie. It's a slow one, but, I love it. Yeah. Vincent, I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed being your analyst. I'd heard all these things about this Vincent Trocheck. You make games easy to call. I like the fact, I'm going to say this, I like the fact that with you, in my view, you have to earn a good answer with a good question. Because we have to, whether in any capacity of the media, you have to try to ask a good question in as few words as possible. And I like the fact that with Vincent Trocheck, you have to earn a good answer. I applaud that. You've got to dig in. My headphones are even coming off. So I'm glad that I got that out there. And in closing, for those watching on YouTube, I've had a lot of women in my life say, Trip, why don't you go with a little ink? Paint yourself. All right, perfect. Let's see. Give me the background there of Tattooville.
Oh, my God. I mean, there's a lot going on, but there's a little bit of musical background into it. I got the music notes. Got my parents' birthdays up top, and I got a little lion. Son's name is Leo. I incorporated the lion. I got a few more. I'm Catholic. I have a cross on my back. One of my sides says persistent and dedicated. I got that when I was 18, whenever I was in the midst of trying to make the NHL.
I was an altar boy, maybe the most nervous I was as a kid to not screw it up. Were you ever an altar boy?
No, I never had to do it. I remember watching my cousins do it, and I was like, there's no way I could do this. I would be way too nervous, and I never actually had to.
Oh, the part where I had to shake the bells, and if we ever had to come in from the back of the church and carry the cross, I was afraid I was going. It was a tough deal. Well, Vince, I can't thank you enough for not just coming on, but epitomizing digging in. Keep it going. It's been a ball. We just talked about our shared Catholicism. May the Lord be with you and peace be with you, my brother, because I'm very happy to have you in my life.
Thanks, Tripper. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you so much, Vincent. as we take this before your injury. We hope that you're back very, very soon. My gosh, have you been an impressive, important glue? I think the easiest way to say it is you make my job ridiculously easy and fun because of the way you play the game. There are no ebbs and flows. You bring it, and you bring it any day that ends in a Y. And you brought it on the episode. So thank you so much. No surprise that family first, Pittsburgh native, type of guy you want on your team, and said some wonderful things about the intangibles, the chemistry that exists on this Hurricanes group right now. Thank you so much to the New Country Auto Group, our longtime presenting sponsor, for digging in with Vincent to us. The New Country Auto Group, with dealerships spanning up and down the eastern seaboard. You can start in the south in Florida, where Troch used to play. Just opened the doors on really an unparalleled Ferrari dealership in Naples. But the dealerships in the West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale area, right on up to New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Connecticut. I mentioned Ferrari, Mercedes, Maserati, BMW, Lexus. They check every box, whether it be the purchase of one of those great automotive vehicles, whether it be the service, just the all-inclusive family feel. Family-created automotive group, family attention to detail every step along the way. NewCountry.com, our tremendous presenting sponsor as always. And also, a new addition to the group, Hoseheads Hockey, hoseheadshockey.com, and their very cool hockey merchandise, the Original Six collection. You want to check that out. And with Pittsburgh ties, much like the guest of the day, Vincent Trocheck, they have a very cool Pittsburgh Penguin merchandise collection. Hoseheadshockey.com on Instagram. At Hoseheads Hockey, just take out the O and the Y in hockey, and you're there with their handle. They are also on Twitter. So thank you so much to our sponsors. It's time to call this episode a day when I'm saying sponsors, not sponsors. Please continue to check out Vincent's merchandise line, as we touched upon in the show, as well as our ever-expanding merch, digintrip.com. I'm wearing my Pucky Trucker that Vincent has requested, and that should be at his doorstep any day now. And also rate and review our show, please. Let us know where we're at, honestly, so we can grow on all audio platforms, YouTube as well. Until the next time, please, when you look at yourself in the mirror, be honest if you're shovel in hand, and if you're not, it's never too late to grab that shovel and hold on to it. Stay safe, continue enjoying this wonderfully entertaining hockey season, and we'll talk to you the next time here on Digging In.
We're digging in with Trip today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today.